I begin my program and I have started sharing my screen and all that, you just write in the chat box that yes, screen is visible and it's okay. Yeah, unmute yourself. Yeah, Simran, you're muted. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Huh,
sorry.
huh.
A very warm evening to all of you. Welcome to the 111th session of CENTA's webinar series for teachers. I hope all of you are keeping safe and staying healthy. Over the course of next 1 hour, we will get to know about academic writing and research methodology, and the facilitator for today's session is Dr. Ashok Pandey. Listed by Forbes India 2020 among the 100 top people manager, Mr. Pandey has spent more than 3 decades in the education sector, pursuing innovative ways to impart knowledge, values, and joy of learning. Mr. Pandey is a proud alumnus of Allahabad University, BITS Pilani, and Regional Institute of Education, Ajmer. Presently, he is the director of the Alcon Group of Schools in Delhi. Ashok sir has been a successful school principal, author, speaker, researcher, and facilitator. A fellow of the Royal Society of Arts London, he is a recipient of the Rice Fellowship from the Southampton University, United Kingdom, and the O.P. Jindal Global University, India. His book, Launch Your Inspiring Principal Leadership, is loved by educators. The national award from the president of 2012 was awarded to him. Ashok sir is also a member of the governing body of the National NCTE, which is the National Council of Teacher Education, among his many other assignments. Over to you, sir, and please take the session forward. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. And I'm feeling little awkward in the sense that I'm not able to see any of my participants here, and technically I'm going to address the invisible audience. Nonetheless, I respect their presence, I respect their power, energy, and I respect the huge contribution that they are making in the lives of the children that they are under their custody. So I will just put my screen first and then let me see if everything is fine. And here I go. All
We are
right.
able to view, sir.
You are able to see it?
Yes, yes, we are able to view.
Excellent. All right. So, good evening once again, my invisible audience. I love you a lot. And today, when we are talking about, I think two or three things are coming to my mind. And I must tell you that first. Today is the National Education Day in this country. And we are commemorating the birth anniversary of our first education minister, Mr. Maulana Azad. And I think all of us as Indians have to pay our tribute and gratitude to him for laying the foundation of education that we have been taking forward for the last 75 years. So this is number one. Number two, 2 days or 3 days down the line, we will be celebrating the Children's Day. And what could be more important than the children, their happiness, their flourishing, their education, for any educator for that matter. And of course, that day will also be dedicated to our first prime minister. And today I want to tell you something very interesting has happened, and that is one report has come by UNESCO. And in that report, UNESCO is talking about reimagining education. So the kind of education that we have been imparting all across the globe, it is not a India specific report, I must tell you that. The kind of education that we have imparted, it has done a lot of good, but it has not done a lot of good for a lot of children in this world. So that is the hypothesis on which the entire UNESCO report is based. And therefore, the UNESCO report goes on to say that our classroom learning spaces, our curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, everything has to be reimagined. And everything has to be reimagined in the light of uncertainties, in the life of in the light of future skills that we require among our children, and in the light of our gains and losses in the last 70, 75 years, and over and above all, what has happened in the last 2 years during the pandemic. So that is the broad concern. So, under these, I think this particular webinar that we have and this little interaction that I'm going to have with you is of great significance. When we planned and CENTA planned this particular webinar more than a month ago, we did not know that the UNESCO report will come just on the day of this webinar. So that I am seeing as some kind of a coincidence, and I also see it as a message, hidden message, that one of the reimagined processes of pedagogy is to bring research into our classrooms, to convert our traditional methods of either broadcasting or interacting or sharing of knowledge and information, has to be based on data, has to be based on hard research, and that has to become the new defining, reimagined pedagogical tool for the new education. So this is the premise that I'm putting on the table right in the beginning. And here we go. I wish we were able to interact. We are not able to do that, and therefore, I'll try and make it as interesting for you as humanly possible for me. And therefore, I'm putting before you, I'm not with you, you are at your own location, but just have a look at this particular screen, and you make your own thought as to what this data or this bar and this graphical representation or infography, if you can call it, what information does it give to you? Though it is written on top performing companies are taking bold action across all 9 imperatives. So if I ask you what is the operating part of this title for this graph, 9 imperatives, okay, for top performance. And if we take these 9 imperatives, all those top performing companies will be taking a bold action. So these are bold action imperatives, and which the research says that the top performing companies are undertaking. So let us see. I'll just read one of them for you to understand what I'm trying to tell you. That there are 3 parts of any organization, let us say. So for your school, let us say, can we ask this question, who we are? Okay. Number 2, how do we function? And number 3 question you can ask, how do we grow from what we are today to what we want to be day after tomorrow? So these are the 3 things. So who we are as an institution, we have to ask, what is our purpose? What is our value system? And what is the culture that we perpetuate on our campuses? How do we operate? What are the structures? How do we take decisions? It is participatory, it is authoritative. How do we nurture talent? That is something very, very important. How do we include voices and choices of the stakeholders into our whole process? And then we have to grow. If we are average, we have to be good. If we are good, we have to be great. If we are great, we have to sustain. If we have to sustain, then we have to be built to last forever. That is the cycle which we have to take. And for that, how prepared we are for learning, growing, developing our ecosystem, and what are the technologies that we are prepared to embed. So this is a McKinsey report, and I have put it here. Now, I'm just asking you a question. If you have a paper and pencil with you somewhere nearby, just write it and refer to it later once this particular session is over. That if I had to tell you about what makes organizations great, what are the bold steps, what is the theory of organization, what are bold steps, what are imperatives, I had given you definitions, I had given you theories and quotations. I mean, that would have been one method. Was that method better? Or this research that I have brought, this method is better? I think just write it down and tell me, uh, this experience I have given to you, but the other experience you already have, listening to somebody's lecture, listening to somebody's theory, listening to somebody's quotations, taking down notes. So, between the two, which one is an interesting one? That is the question that I'm asking, and you have to write the answer. The second example I'm bringing to you, just look at this diagram. You see three colors here, blue, red, and black. And there is a very, very strong, interesting historical story behind this particular graph. All of you have heard about Florence Nightingale, and she is known as the greatest nurse on the earth. And we all worship her, we all, respect her. So you should know that in 1985, 86, 80, 54, 1854, or something like that, she was sent to a hospital where the patients were the wounded soldiers, and they came to the hospital, and the hospital was reporting that most of those soldiers were dying. And Florence Nightingale mind was not prepared to accept it. Imagine, please note the context of this story that I'm sharing with you. Almost 200 years ago, 175 years ago to be precise. And at that time, when she started talking to people, nobody believed her and said, "What nonsense you are talking about? They are deeply wounded, they are injured, it is serious, and some of them will die. So why are you worried about it?" And then she studied it. She collected a data, and she presented that data for the first time 175 years ago in this graphical or pie chart or whatever you may call it. Imagine today we have got such beautiful technological methodologies to present our data. But 175 years ago, a nurse presenting this data, telling the world that, look, blue shows the people who were dying could have been avoided. Their death could have been avoided because they were dying due to preventable problems, the problems which could be prevented. Actually, the red one is the one which are the people who are dying because of the wound during the war. And the black shows that they are dying because of other reasons. And what was her hypothesis and her experience? Florence Nightingale said that the hospital conditions are so pathetic, so infected, so poor sanitation and hygiene that even if the wound is not serious, people are dying because of preventable causes, other causes. And she showed it with the help of this. Now, just imagine 175 years ago, here is a person who is able to tell you this eye opening data analysis of how we should improve the condition of hospitals. So just pause over it. And therefore, I'm going to build this case further that if we really have to make our children thinking, to make our children critically very strong, and to give them hard data and research, I think their learning will be much more convincing, and they will be much more faster in understanding the concepts, taking decisions. And of course, it will involve a lot of other things which will come later. And therefore, I come straight to a couple of thoughts before I move further, that what is educational research and what is its purpose for our education. So the primary purpose is that, any research for that matter is one layer up on the layers below already laid down. And somebody has beautifully said that research is about standing over the shoulders of the giants. So one giant has already done something. You study it, find out, see if there is any gap or hole, and then you plug that by bringing in your theory, research, data, analysis, etc. So you add to the existing knowledge. You provide a solution to the different problems that our pedagogy is suffering from. How you can improve teaching and learning practices, and therefore by doing this, you as educational researcher and educator, you will give answers to the questions which are related to classroom issues. So what is a learner motivation, how to reduce impediments to learning, how to manage classrooms, what are the different insights in the classroom. So that is the basic purpose of educational research. And one thing which is very popular amongst the classroom practitioners is action research. So action research, as part of the educational research, as part of the research as a whole, is a critical reflection on the current practices that we have, and it encourages investigation. What works and what does not work. As with any other research work, you for that you will have to be well informed, you will have to be critically reflective. Your goal should be the improving the quality of your education locally. So if a particular methodology is not working in your classroom, you have to think as to how it can work. So what is the research question you will have, how you will collect data on that, what recommendation will you do, and then see whether your new recommended methodology works in the classroom or not. That will form part of action research. And therefore, this whole step, I'm not going to tell you to make you a researcher today itself, but at least this opening up of the process is very, very important, because that is what is going to lead us to as to how research and writing could form part of our classroom pedagogy. So research, as I said earlier, is a way to build knowledge. So it is an essential requirement for analysis, writing, reading, and dissemination of information. It nourishes and opens up our minds. I'm sure the two graphs that I showed you in the beginning, must have given us some stimulus to think about. With research, understanding of issues becomes easy. Otherwise, we only keep talking on the basis of hearsay, or we keep talking only anecdotally here and there. And then I'll tell you a little later, we make our opinion, which is not well informed. And that is not what an educated person should do. And at the end, research also helps to build confidence and positivity to try on new opportunities. And therefore, in one sentence, just for a reference, I can say research is a systematic inquiry to describe, to explain, to predict, and control the observed phenomenon. At, and it, of course, includes making deductive conclusions. So this whole procedure follows 6 steps. Problem recognition. So what is the problem and why that problem must be solved? That is something very, very important. That is that you identify the problem, and so what is the problem, articulate it, and why it is important to solve that problem. That is something very, very important. And for that, you have to review the previous findings connected with the problem. Because if you do not do that, then there will be replication, there will be time wasted, resources wasted. Because if somebody has already found a solution to the problem that you are raising today, it is better to get wiser by reading them rather than reinventing the wheel. So, this is one purpose of review. And the second purpose of review is that when you review, then you will find where there is a gap, which particular aspect of your problem has not been addressed before, and you will go on addressing it. So that is the review part of it. And the third part is, of course, what are the factors which are influencing your study. So you have to identify and select the relevant factors, which is also known as variables. And then you have to collect data. Now, data could have been available to you. Somebody has collected the data and it is available, or you collect a new data. And what will be your method of collecting data? You will give a survey, you will give a questionnaire, you will have a focus group study, you will call the people connected with that issue and talk to them in depth discussion, or any other methodology. And then how do you analyze that data to arrive at your result? And then you have to present that data, because you have done the research within your organization, your context, and you keep the findings with you. What purpose does it serve? And if you don't take any action on this, then what is the purpose of that? Okay. And therefore, uh, the last 6 point is something that we are going to take up. We may not take the other points in detail, but the purpose of today's webinar is academic writing and research methodology. So academic writing comes at the sixth point. So you have done this very enormous, time consuming, hard labor and resources also you have done. And if you don't communicate it in the language that reaches the audience, and the audience understand it, then what purpose does it serve? So therefore, academic writing per se is communicating your findings and analyzing it in the language that reaches the audience. That is something very, very important. In their language, they should understand it. And that is what academic writing is. But before I come to that, let me give you some idea as to what is a research question, or what is a hypothesis. So let us say that somebody tells you all tall people are short tempered by nature. Now, what is your reaction to this? What is your response to this? You believe it? You disbelieve it? You fight over it? If you're a tall person, you say, no, I'm not a short tempered person. And even if you're not a tall person, you can say that, how can you tell that all of them are there? So this is the genesis of that research oriented teaching and learning process. So I'm asking you 5 questions which are going to pin down this hypothesis that all tall people are short tempered by nature. Do you have any data to support that hypothesis? Yes or no? Can you tell me something about the source of data you used in your analysis? If you have data, what was the source of data? Was it authentic, or it was cooked up, or it was only to suit your personal point of view in a very, very prejudiced manner? Are you sure that the sample I'm sure you don't go to all the tall people in the world. You might have taken, let us say, 100, 200, 300 people, and even if your data is very pure and very authentic, and you followed all the principles of ethics and integrity, but those small population called sample, do they represent the larger population? That is another question. Are there any outliers in your data distribution? So if there are some exceptional people, how do you factor that in, and how does that affect your data? And what are the assumptions that you have made, or what are the limitations of your this particular data analysis? So now look at the scrutiny, and look at the high benchmark that we put before a research question even proceeds in the course of our discussion. So that is what we mean by that, how your research question or the hypothesis is to be formed. There are many more conditions also. I'm not going to that. And therefore, let me come back to the original question of academic writing. I have already given you some hint as to what academic writing is. A formal look at the academic writing differs from other forms of writing. Okay, all writings as a writing of language, the syntax or the grammar, or putting them into paragraphs, that could be same. But academic writing from other writings is slightly different, but it also has some commonalities. And many writing forms are commentaries on the specific topics, right? And they give some kind of analysis or opinion. But academic writing, in contrast, looks at the topic from an impersonal. You can't have your personal biases into it. That is the first condition. And it has to have a research driven angle to it. And we see forms of academic writing in all areas of academia and research. The goal of all academic writing, however, is it remains the same, and that is to prove your hypothesis or theory in the light of those questions which I raised before. And academic writers, by nature, they dissect the ideas, they question reasoning, and they support the conclusions. They arrive at the conclusion after going through a very rigorous methodology and steps. So that is what the academic writing is. Now, you see this diagram, and what kind of uh, idea comes to your mind? Can anybody write somewhere? I don't know if I can.
Sir,
This.
I can
Hi, you
check
can you
the part
prompt
of.
me? Can
Yeah,
you prompt me?
yes, sir.
Have they given any words or clues after seeing this? What are the words, Simran? If you can tell me.
Sir, it says save Earth, and then we
Okay.
have someone saying save the Earth and love for Earth, play
Okay.
school.
All right. Very
Then
good.
we have
I think they are
environment
all.
conscious.
I know. So they're all teachers, and therefore I can say they can say 100 words. So I'm requesting that before you see these pictures, don't describe the content of the picture. Just tell me that what all things have gone behind that. So for example, is this picture nice? Do you see some creativity in it? Do you see some research in it? Something like that, some characteristics. So if you can revise your answers now, I'll be very grateful. So Simran, you see if some new answers are coming now after my
Yes, we can
intervention.
see a sad emoji. Then we
Okay.
have Mother Earth. Then we have
Okay.
sad faces looking at the condition of the environment.
Very nice. Now this one, don't read what is written in between. You just see the diagram, and just write certain words which flash in your mind, without thinking too much.
We have some words called innovative. Then
Innovative. Okay. Very nice. Innovative. What else?
we have connection,
Connections. Oh, very nice. So
shaking
innovation.
of hands,
Okay. Connection. Right.
humanity,
Excellent.
strength in
This one.
unity,
Yeah. What word comes to your mind after seeing this picture?
collaboration,
Collaboration,
teamwork,
teamwork,
friendship,
okay, friendship.
humanity.
And by seeing these faces, nothing comes to your mind. These lovely, cute, smiling faces. Does it evoke anything in you? Just don't look at my picture. Otherwise, you'll be
Cheerful,
cheerful,
enthusiasm,
enthusiasm. Okay. And
smiles.
now, what does this say? So, degree of difficulty in interpreting is slightly increasing now.
Uh, People are saying respect for each other, bonding,
Or respect, bonding,
assignment,
assign.
collectivity,
Oh, very good. Excellent. Excellent. And now, what does this say? What are the words coming, Simran?
study with okay, people are, I think this is called busy project,
Mm-hmm.
teamwork, learning,
Teamwork, learning. Okay.
hands at work, perspectives,
Okay. Perspectives. Very nice. Very nice.
positivity, time management.
Yeah, Simran, I must tell you, the audience that you have is absolutely fantastic. Very enlightened. So, therefore, now let me tell you why I asked you all this. So, what are the competencies linked to academic writing? So, if you want to be a first rate academic writer, I think you should be an analytical thinker. Your communication should be fantastic. Creativity. You have to be flexible, listen to each other. Professionally, you have to be very confident. You have to be self aware. You have to work strategically. You have to fix priorities. Time management is something very, very important. So, these are the competencies which are linked to academic writing. Okay. And by those images, I was trying to just, give you a visual relief from the hearing that you were having for the past 15-20 minutes. But the whole idea is that if we exhibit those characteristics, how we can communicate, how to be flexible, collaboration, somebody said, and the confidence that you have to have, somebody said, innovation, you said innovation and creativity, and professionally you have to be very, very confident of yourself. So the teachers have to be very, very confident of your professionalism, and a strategic working means what is urgent, what is important, what is not important, what should draw our attention first. That is something very, very important. And therefore, now I'm going to ask, and Simran, you have to help me again. So I'm just reading it. The pandemic has disrupted our health, livelihood, and education. As far as education is concerned, it has brought sudden and unprecedented learning loss and discontinuity. According to a World Bank report, the cumulative effect of learning losses in India alone is worth $400 billion. So, this is the first paragraph of a research report. And Simran, I'm asking this question to the audience that by reading this, what idea comes to the mind that what is this research all about? Can they make any guess? So please write in the chat box that the topic or the research question that you think this research report of which this is the opening paragraph is all about. So just help me, please, by giving your answers in the chat box. And Simran,
We
you can
can
read a
see
couple of them
effect
for me.
of the
Uh,
pandemic.
Effect of pandemic. Okay.
We I think there is a lag, but we'll get more. Uh,
Okay.
Someone says it's the pandemic effect. Then there are people who are saying that World Development Report. Then learning, quality of education, impact of
Wow.
the pandemic on education.
Very
Uh,
nice.
then we have remedial actions to fill the learning gaps,
Okay. Very nice.
teaching in
Excellent.
pandemic,
Excellent. So
technological inequality.
very nice. Very nice. Excellent. So what we are trying to tell here is that all good academic writing, of course, we said that it has to be based on research, but it has to have a very compelling opening paragraph. That the opening paragraph should open up or unfold what is going to come. So, this is one aspect of good academic writing. I'll give you another example. So, here it is, since the COVID pandemic began, wherever possible, the education sector has tried to adapt to online teaching, digitization, edtech applications, and a previously unimagined teaching regime. The teaching community has embraced improvisation, resource management, and a new work life balance, resulting in a resilient education system. So can you tell me this paragraph suggests what kind of report or research?
So we can see importance of technology, the effect of pandemic on learning
Yeah.
of children,
Hmm.
play school in a creative way.
Okay.
Okay, then there are challenges of the pandemic, then
Yes. Yes.
resilient education system,
Yeah.
adaptation of education to change,
Yeah.
hybrid learning, and then
Absolutely.
uh, technology, the effect of technology.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is another example of academic writing opening thing that I have given. And now I'm just flipping it. So you see this one, how digital leadership supported education during the pandemic. Now, this is the question which has been asked. Now, if you had to do some kind of research on it, then you have to frame some questions, okay, which you will talk to the sample size or whatever sample you take. And then, if it is a qualitative analysis, then you have to understand those answers. So you just see here, how has COVID-19 pandemic brought changes in the ed tech sector? What practices teachers adapted to boost students' well-being during online teaching? How can edtech players meet the expectations of the parents and students? How can educators and edtech players keep up the momentum in a post-COVID or once the schools reopen? So now these are some of the questions. So how will you find answer to this? You can have your own answer, but will that answer be validated? Is that answer reliable? And to increase the reliability and validity, and for you to be a professionally convinced educator to talk on this topic with authority and confidence, you have to have the backup of data and research. And therefore you have to devise a methodology as to how you will collect this data. So you put this question in what form, you decide it, which is the best form. And then you sit down and analyze it, that you talk to 200, 300 people, and this is what they are saying, and these are what their concerns are. And and then let us say that you are going to teach in the classroom, and where you are doing the application of any ed tech application or a product or solution. I think that research data in your mind will give you a new dimension where you can see the benefit of it, or you can see that no, it is not offering any benefit. So that will be the direct consequence of this research thing. Now here, uh, the previous twos were a little very obvious, but this time I'm giving you a slightly different, and you guess what kind of research it is. COVID 19 has impacted us all, but it is even more worrying for international students because they are away from home and more isolated. They are trying to keep up with their studies, but they will miss the class exposure, socialization, and community building. Most universities worldwide have relaxed attendance and on campus regulations, and are also providing online counseling to their students. So, one researcher is doing a research, and he or she has written this first paragraph. So, can you guess now that what this research is going to lead us to? You can write in the chat box, please.
We can see
Mm,
again pandemic effects on education, mental health,
mm.
uh, and then we have innovative solutions to solving creativity, impact of pandemic on the domain of education, then
Yeah.
flexibility for international students.
Yes, yes. So now this answer is very important, Simran, because this particular study is about international students. Okay, that those who are in one country and they have to go to the other country. So what the universities have done for them, they can't travel, visa restrictions, intergovernmental, those transfers were impossible, flights were not available. They have paid a huge fee, so they should study online. They should go on the campus. What should happen? Okay, and how they should be helped out. So that was a problem, and one researcher during the pandemic studied it, and here is this paragraph that opens it up. So these are, I think I have given you enough number of examples to suggest what are the competencies required for academic writing. And secondly, when you have started writing, your opening paragraph is of great importance. And therefore, here is one expert who suggests that what is academic writing style is all about. So, and that is something very interesting. And those of you who are creative writers, you will love this quotation which I'm sharing with you here. So, what Helen says is, imagine whenever you are writing or before writing, and you sit down and you decide what to write and how to write and what should be my style. Imagine your theories and ideas and assertions and anecdotes and examples. They are all characters in your story. So the assumption here is that academic writing on any subject is a story writing. And in that writing, who are the characters? Your theories, your ideas, your assertions, your anecdotes, and your any example that you give there. And therefore, you have to decide that what characteristics will they have, what characteristic your ideas will have, your assertions will have, your anecdotes will have. And out of these ideas, assertions, anecdotes, and characters, who will be the hero or who will be the villain? Because that is also very, very important. And when will your so on a stage play, when you stage a play or a story, the characters enter and exit. Okay. And you try to describe each character and to place them in a scene to make them more vivid. So what will be their placement, when will they arrive, when they will disappear from the stage? So what does it mean actually is that it is a very, very creative exercise. Writing is a creative exercise. And how to help you be creative is that you have to have all those things in your mind on a piece of paper. Maybe you log every idea, assertion, and anecdote, and then you catalog it, in a manner in which it is easy for you to pick them up, and then you place them or synthesize them, as we call it. That at what place my idea will come, where the assertion will come, where the anecdote will come, what are the roles they will play, who will be my trump card, who will be my recommendation, who will be my hidden character whom I will bring at the end to assert the point that I'm making. That is what it is all about. So anybody who has an experience with writing, I'm sure you will relate yourself to that exercise, that, oh yes, this is exactly what we do. But if we do it consciously, our academic writing will be even more important. Okay. And therefore, so let us say that we have one you know action research plan in our mind. So what all things come to us, and what all stories we can weave around it, and how can we change our own context, and how can we enhance quality. So I'm giving here some examples of teachers who have already done research on action research. So say, for example, the pre-primary teachers, they studied how to make pre-primary students aware of child protection through story sessions. So child protection is a huge thing in our teaching learning process. So how can you connect it with your classroom? So can you do an action research about it? And can you embed stories as an instrument of child protection dissemination, making children aware of it? That is something very, very important. Another group studied yoga is an effective instrument to improve concentration skills in pre-primary children. Everybody says that it improves concentration, but other than some anecdotal experiences and some people, can we do a research around it? And can we find out that, yes, has it really resulted into improving the concentration in my own context or not? Then it will be much more effective. Is the role play an effective tool to teach pre-primary children? So the first one was storytelling. The second, this one is the role play. How to develop proclivity towards Indian classical dance in boys of grade 5. So some of you who are teachers, you will find that in the beginning, in nursery, KG 1 and 2, both boys and girls are dancing. And as they grow, why the dancing talent or skill, fades away as far as boys are concerned. So what is the reason for that? And can you develop this inclination or proclivity towards Indian classical dances among the boys? So this was another study. Which system is more effective for third graders, single teacher or multiple teachers? So many of us struggle that it is the multiple teacher is more effective in a class 2 or class 3 or 1, or a single teacher. Okay. How hands-on or experiential activities can help in understanding the adaptations in the plants and animals? So this is another study. Will collaborative learning develop better understanding of mathematical skills in the physical chemistry? So this is by a senior teacher, maybe class 11th and 12th, who teaches chemistry, and she wanted to study about the mathematical skills in physical chemistry. What impact the stress management activities and workshops will have on stress level of students. So do those workshops and those exercises help or they don't help? What role will value education activities and workshops play in enhancing the adjustment level of adolescents? So these are the context in which we should be able to think, we should be able to do some research, and for that, as I said earlier, that it opens up new boundaries. It makes us more curious. It gives us a stimulus to our mind to think better. So, and that ultimately will result into what we call the academic writing. Now, once you have written something, you have to get it published. That is something that everybody wants. And as I have already said this, that if your research findings and recommendations are not published, you don't disseminate it, you don't go give it to the social media or whatever it is, then what is the purpose that it is going to serve? It will not serve any purpose. And therefore, academic writing, once you reach that level, writing for a newspaper, writing for a magazine, writing for what we call general purpose in a popular language is a different thing. And as I have been repeatedly saying, that academic writing is a different thing. And therefore, there are certain standards for academic writing. And all respected journals, respected publications, they require of us that look, if your writing style follows this school of a style, then only it is acceptable. And most of them let you know in advance only. Okay. So one is APA style, so these are the official guidelines put forth by American Psychological Association, now in its sixth edition. Okay. And MLA style, Modern Language Association, they also provide you. And most of the people doing research in humanities and artists and English majors, etc., this MLA is acceptable. And then of course the CMS style, Chicago Manual of Style, it is now in its 16th edition, so that is also there. I have given you some of their guidelines, links, and all that. So, the whole idea is that when you are writing, and I said one thing in the beginning, and I'm going to repeat it, that in writing, your what is the central problem you have in mind is very, very important. Now, once that central problem is discussed and summarized, and you have narrowed down to this is what I'm going to write about or research about, then you have to do some kind of literature review. And as I said, the literature review is something which will give you idea as to what work has already been done, what are the problems which have already been addressed, and what is the gap that I'm going to identify and find out. So, in academic writing, when you are finding those people's work, that has to be cited also. And therefore, citation is something very, very important. And therefore, I'm making an assertion here that all writing, all research has two other character points, and that is humility and integrity. Without humility and integrity, one does not qualify to be a good academic writer or a good researcher. So, what does the humility mean? The humility is to accept that this is an area where I do not have any clue about, and therefore I am open, I'm flexible. I told you one of the competencies is flexibility, to find out the work that others have done. So I'm open about it. I'm acknowledging it that there is a work and I had to do it. So, say for example, I will give you one very simple example, that you think of anything randomly in your mind. Okay, that let us say that what is the impact of collective efficacy of teachers on the performance of the students? This is a question that you have in mind, and you just go to Google Scholar, scholar.google.com, and you will find hundreds of research papers by top scholars in the world. And you will be surprised, oh my god, this is the question came to my mind, and there is a whole lot of work already which has been done. So let us say you choose 10 of them and you just go through the summary of their research, you will find that what all areas they have taken. And your sharp mind, will quickly discover that in these 10 works that I have studied just now, here is one thing that has not been addressed by all 10 of them. And now I'm going to do something about it. And that is why I said that it is all about standing on the shoulders of the giants already who have worked. So, one is humility, and the second is integrity. And integrity is that once you have found who has done what, be very generous, open, ethically and morally very very strong, to let people know that these are the people who have done this work, and do the citation in the manner in which it is required. So these are some of the things. And I end my case here by once again just telling all of you that you will love it once you get into it. And once you start bringing data into your classrooms, your classroom experience for the children will also be different. Okay. And instead of just going with your theories and definitions, you bring a research to the class and you tell the children that look, this is the data, what all inferences you draw from it, and how can we build theories around it. So that is a very very fascinating thing. It is very interesting. I have my own experience and I can tell you that I have enjoyed it, and I'm sure most of you who are doing it will enjoy it. If not, you will enjoy it if you start doing it as you wish. So Simran, I'm
Yes, sir.
stopping my screen and
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, for a
coming
very
back.
engaging session. I will request the audience if they have any questions to put them down now. So uh, we'll be answering them now. So if you have any questions, please do put it in the chat box, and I will be reading them out to sir. Okay, we see a lot of excellent explanation. Thank yous. We want to know if there are any questions as well.
Yes, I want questions. My whole presentation was about questions, Simran. So I
Yeah.
want some questions. Otherwise, I will go a very, very dissatisfied man.
Yeah, I think we'll just wait for another
Yeah,
2 minutes for
somebody has
people
to do
to.
me a favor by asking a question. And please, first question, that person you acknowledge. You tell me the name
Yeah.
and I will thank him or her.
Okay, so Aravindan J has asked, what are the challenges in conducting classroom research?
Oh, yes. So I think the presentation suggests the challenges. But the first challenge, Arvindan, is that is our mindset flexible enough to bring research into the classroom. And I'm not saying that bring research every day into your classroom, but start adapting to it and start seeing the potential it offers in making the classrooms more interesting. Ultimately, Arvindan, what our children are going to do, they are going to solve problems, and solving problem will require research, right? And therefore if we start building this characteristics and skill in them right from the beginning, I think it will be much more easy. Okay. And most of our students go for research, and 2 years 3 years they invest only in learning what are the research skills, what is research all about, how to collect data, how to write, how to hypothesize, and a lot of time is wasted. And therefore if we can prepare our children, it serves two or three purposes. Number one, their learning enhances, they learn new skills, and number three, they prepare better for the life in future.
So Miss Dumka wants to know what is the difference between aim and objectives in research.
Okay, so I mean, I will not go into the semantics of it, but I will put it in this way that, whenever you think about a problem, right, you go through various stages of it. So, first, a broad thing will come to your mind, right? And then that is so broad and so vast and so humongous that if you go on doing research, probably will take at least one lifetime, right? So let us say that first thought that has come to your mind, is your objective, right? And then you narrow it down, and you put some variables to it, that no, 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 if education in this country is my problem, I will first study the problem of education in the city of Mumbai, right? So from that huge thing, you have come to this. Now, you may also further think that no, studying education in Mumbai is very, very difficult. And therefore, I will take only in one area, or only in, let us say, municipal schools or something like that. So you're further narrowing it down. So from objective, you're going to the aim or the goal. And then finally, you will come to a very well defined, crisp, narrowed research question. Okay. So say, for example, you can say that how in Mumbai's municipal schools in this particular area, socio-economic condition of the girls affects their learning. You have narrowed it down. You get the point?
Sir, Mr. Rajdeep wants to know, is a discussion based classroom the first step towards research?
Oh, yes, I fully agree with you, because when you discuss, you are bringing people to the thinking platform, right? And you have induced, or you have catalyzed thinking, because it is something like taking a shower, right? So this bringing discussion is pouring water on everybody, and everybody's nerves and cells, they get energized and excited, and everybody is thinking. So I think thinking is basic to it, and thinking is catalyzed by inducing discussion in the classroom, and of course rest of the things will flow from there. So I have my own reasons to agree with you, Rajdeep.
Mr. Bhupinder wants to know, what is the ideal population size for a research?
That will vary from research to research, and we cannot put any fixed thing. And that is why, depending upon the literature review that you have done, the question that you have, I asked you this question once, if you remember, is your sample size the true representative of the population size, right? So I think it will be very difficult to put numbers to the sample to represent the population.
Mr. Aravindan also has another question which says, how much of plagiarism is accepted in online research?
So, Arvindan, first of all, why do you want any acceptance for that? This is number one. Okay, let it be zero. However, for technical answer, I can tell you, I think 5 to 7% is fine. But I can also tell you, Arvindan, that plagiarism, there, I think one should read about that also. What is plagiarism and what it is not, right? And also the rules of plagiarism as to how, because of a lack of knowledge, something will be counted as plagiarism. But if we bring in that knowledge and take those precautions of referencing it or citing it in a manner than in which it is the same piece which was plagiarized earlier will not remain a plagiarized one. So you can reduce it to a great extent. But I cannot miss this opportunity to tell you, I think plagiarism is first in our minds. Okay, so that is why I have told you already, the humility and integrity, these are the two things. And if our score on humility scale and integrity scale is very high, I think our plagiarism will be zero, almost zero.
Miss Sylvia wants to know, what does it take to become an academic researcher as a classroom teacher?
It takes your understanding of the academic research, your acknowledgement of the potential of the academic research in enhancing learning experience, and then, of course, the skills that you develop. And to develop those skills, you have to start somewhere, okay? Because theoretically, you are very much convinced, but if you do not take steps, then you will not be able to do it. And therefore, what it takes, I think the first step, if you are convinced, I think tomorrow you should find out one topic, research it, and then write something about it and get it published.
Miss Pushpa wants to know, how to end an academic research writing.
how to end. Yeah, so end is always the conclusion, right? Like I have given some examples of compelling opening, and similarly you have to have a compelling conclusion. Okay, so in that conclusion what all you have done, and you should include in that, because we should not, I use the word humility, right? So humility also comes in the conclusion, that do not think that your research is the last research, and therefore you leave a room for others to build on it. And you be very honest about telling people that while I made these assumptions, and therefore that becomes the constraint of my own research. And therefore if somebody wants a better research, a better result, or a better conclusion, then you probably have to undo those assumptions and undo those limitations, and then probably it will be something like that. You get my point? So the conclusion is, in the sense that your research is getting to a summary, that what is your recommendation, what is the restraints, what were the assumptions that you made, and how does it opens the door of future researchers. So that will be the conclusion. But if you meant, I would include into it that no end of any research work should be complete without acknowledgments. Okay, so you have to acknowledge people who supported you, enabled you, helped you in carrying out your research.
Shalini wants to know, is action research similar to this data representation and discussion in collaboration with children?
Well, if I understand Shalini's question, I can only say that action research is almost a replica of any research. Okay, the only thing is somebody asked a question about sample size, right? So when you're doing an action research, let us say for students of class 6, and there are 300 students, then I think even a sample of 50 to 60 will be good enough. You get my point? So action research it follows all the steps. None of the steps of any research are missed out in action research, and therefore it will have the articulation of the problem statement, it will have a literature review, it will have data collection, it will have data analysis, it will have conclusion. So all those elements will be there. But if the question is that we just have a data and we make some conclusions on the basis of data, that will not match the standards of any research. I think that is what I can say if I understood the question.
Sure. So there are a lot of questions about how to publish research and where.
Okay. So it means I'm happy that some people are perhaps already ready with some writing already. So as far as research is concerned, hard research that we are talking about, there are journals, and you Google any number of journals will be available both nationally and internationally. And some of the journals are very liberal with publication. Some of them are very strict. Some of them have a very hard benchmarking of it. But you have to have, if you are writing something as a beginner, then I will suggest that you start writing in educational magazines first of all as a popular article. Okay, and that will give you an idea as to what is published and what is not published. And then of course you choose some journals that I will write for this journal. Okay, but I am a very very optimistic person, and I'm not stopping anybody from approaching the Sage publication, or approaching the Harvard academic writing review, or any place. It depends what is the quality of your research. That is something very very important in my opinion.
There's a question on how to initiate academic writing amongst students.
Oh yes, of course. So I think all these steps, and that is why one thing that I want, and probably I should have said it in unequivocal way, that right from the beginning we should tell students to start articulating. Okay, and start writing what they are saying. So it is not an academic writing, but let us say for example a child has to say something, and then can we tell that, can you convert it into a 200 words essay writing? Okay, so that essay will have opening remark, it will have a body, it will have a supporting arguments, and then it will have a conclusion, right? So let the beginning start from there. And then as a teacher, you will have to invest a lot in that, okay? And you have to have patience, you will have to have compassion for the child, and the child will also have to have, so these days children, they get very upset when you put a red mark on their copies and all that. So you find a way as to how to correct them without making them upset. You get my point? Because I have example of many people, they're old professors and all that, and they tell their story that even a 5 pages essay which I wrote, it went through 3 or 4 iterations, and I was almost exhausted out of my patience, you see. So I think any writing or reading, it requires a lot of patience. And my thought is that our education system has again now turned into these multiple choice type questions, short answer type questions, and that is putting a lot of pressure on the ability of the children to write and articulate. And therefore I think in our curriculum and also in our pedagogy, we have to bring in those elements where we give an opportunity to the children to think on a project and write, okay? And there are so many issues around them. They are contemporary issues, there are issues which are bothering the children, so say for example, children are schools are reopening and they are coming back to schools, and can we ask them that, can you articulate your experience of pandemic, okay? And let them write in 200, 300 words. I think that will be the beginning, okay? But one answer to the earlier question, Simran, somebody wrote academic writing and what it takes and all that. I think I forgot it, or I did not put enough emphasis on it. Reading is very, very important for any academic writing. So more you read, more you prepare yourself for writing.
Sir, there's a question. This person wants to know, can there be anything fully correct or fully incorrect in research based on different reviewers, you know, research report?
No,
Like, given
not
the
at all.
social. Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. Being correct or incorrect is not the purpose of research. What is your finding after passing through that rigorous protocol of research? And then what is your recommendation? Excuse me, right? So, your recommendation, and that recommendation will be put to scrutiny by the future researchers. As simple as that. So, there is no question of right or wrong in research.
So people are
So for
asking for.
example, yeah, sorry,
Sorry,
Simran.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Yes.
say for example, these vaccines were developed during the pandemic, right? Now, which vaccine has which efficacy, right? And what are the conditions? So 2 doses, what should be the gap between the two? Now, how do you think on the earth that all these findings have come and all these recommendations have come? Because of the data, because of the field trials, right? And therefore you see that some vaccines are there which require only 1 dose, some require 2 doses, some require 2 doses at the gap of 4 weeks, and some at the gap of 12 weeks, because they have come out of data, they have come out of the trials. So research is always about following the protocols.
So we will end with this last request, probably not a question, to give an example of good academic writing.
Give an example. So I'm sorry I don't have an example here, but I will suggest to you that this person or anybody, I think you start reading. And I gave you one website which all Google, scholar.google.com, and popularly it is known as Google Scholar. You can write in the chat box,
I'm doing that.
scholar.google.com, and any topic of your interest, you just put in the search box of this site, and you will get a series of academic scholarly writings, and all of them are best examples of good academic writing, and please read it.
So, because we are anyway 10 minutes over time, and I
Oh
would
yes,
like to close the session
fine,
without
thank
taking
you
any
very much.
more time from you
Yeah, yeah.
and the
So
audience.
before you say the closing remarks, Simran, let me thank the audience. Thank you. Thanks, CENTA, for giving me this opportunity to share whatever little I knew about it.
Thank you so much, sir. I think CENTA got the opportunity to hold this webinar, and you graciously accepted our invitation. So it was a great session. I, in fact, learned a lot and would probably take it forward. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to request the audience to register for more such webinars on m.centa.org. And we will close this session for today. The link for the feedback I am posting again on the chat box. You can fill it till 9 p.m. today to get your certificate tomorrow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, audience. We will close the session now.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.